Whoa! So the other day I was browsing Twitter, and this article I think from PC Gamer kept getting promoted to me, which had the headline, something on the lines of Borderlands meets a roguelike FPS in this game called Robo Quest. Now me being me, I'm a massive fan of Borderlands, so I immediately thought, that sounds like something up my alley, and I had a quick look, saw a couple of screenshots, didn't really see much about it, but it looked interesting and I liked the art style of the game. And then I queried about a review key on it through Keymail, and lo and behold, they approved it, so this is what this video is being made. Now when I went in with RoboQuest, I initially expected it just to be a really cheap looking, basic roguelike FPS, because it seems to be a craze recently that roguelikes are coming back. We've had stuff like Hades, you've got Rogue Legacy, that Gunfire Reborn, which does look fun, but I couldn't get into it. And my expectations were pretty, average with this, because I expected it to be fairly gimmicky. And I'm honestly surprised, because it's actually a lot of fun. RoboQuest is definitely like Borderlands when it comes to art style and gun variety, but I feel like it's a bit of a mix between Borderlands, Enter the Gungeon, and a game called 13, which is an old first-person shooter which had a comic book art style, and all of the guns, when you fire them and certain people who died, it'd have all this text come up, and you see that a lot in this game, especially when you fire stuff like the Gatling gun. You see it say like rat-a-tat-a-tat as it fires, and as a cosmetic kind of thing, it is actually quite amusing to see, and I do genuinely like it. But it's the game itself that I'm surprised by, because I'm slowly getting addicted to it. It's in early access, so some of the stuff I'm probably going to say now won't mean much down the line. But the gist of it is, you're a robot which is called a Guardian, which was destroyed, but then this engineer who's like scouting this wasteland finds you and repairs you. And from here, this story begins of you finding like relics from the past, of the fall of civilization, and you're just going through these areas just shooting robots and getting all these little weapons and trinkets, and just basically finding out what happened. As the story goes, it's definitely a story. I don't think it's really that important when it comes to a roguelike game, because you're mainly just playing it for the repetitiveness of it. It's more like Rogue Legacy in a sense of level structure, because each room has like an end where you go through a door and then it leads on, like, branches out to another area. But the problem I have there is, at the moment, again this could be because it's early access, the variety, quote unquote variety, in the level structure seems to be non-existent. It seems to be you get certain branches which path off in different ways and lead you to the next area, which can be one of two locations for the first part, but the actual level layout seems to be identical. Now I imagine this could be, again, because it's early access, they're trying to focus on stuff like gameplay, but if that's the end goal for it, that's gonna probably get boring quite quickly. I've almost got about 10 hours in it, and I'm not fully bored yet, but that's because the difficulty does ramp up. You can put it up to Heroic +5, I think. I'm currently on +3, and I get to the end and get my ass handed to me. I would personally prefer to see them expand the level design itself, because it's very close quarters and fast paced, which is fine. I actually genuinely like that, and I'm surprised this game doesn't have a slide, because that seems to be the gimmick everybody goes with these days. But this one, though, you have like on-rail stuff, so you can jump on rails and slide about, or you can use a jetpack when you unlock it. But besides that, it's more just boots on the ground and firing your way through just wave upon wave of enemies. And as somebody who likes basic first-person shooters, this is straight up my alley. Now the thing I'm most surprised by with RoboQuest is the actual guns themselves. Now, if we go back to comparing to Borderlands for a second, Borderlands on their trailers tends to have the quote of, oh, look at these bajillions of guns, which in reality is just, oh, we've got a couple of varieties in the weapon model, but the stats will be entirely different. RoboQuest would probably get away with using the gun as a selling point in the trailer, because the guns in this game do have a fair bit of variety, or at least the ones we have so far do. Now it's split into 3 different categories, being assault, precision, and explosive. And the variety in weapons, I can't really describe them all now because there's quite a few to go through, are pretty good. I genuinely think though that the assault weapons are a bit overpowered, because when you level up in the game you get the option to upgrade perks, and one of them which has become like a clutch for me, is you can convert bullets into shock rounds. And then if you shock an enemy, you can then pass it on to 3 enemies if you get another perk. And another perk from there would be you can also have shock deal damage over time. And basically when you deal damage over time, the shock then expands and you can just chain a ton of people. I really like that, but then you look at precision and explosive and it's not as appealing anymore. Like at the moment, my core rundown would be trying to get my hands on akimbo Uzis and possibly the minigun, or I can't remember what it's called now, but it's like a kind of minigun but it's a Gatling gun. Because either of those use bullets, and obviously bullets have shock damage, so when I get that ability I just curb stop everything. Being that I'm stuck on Heroic 3 though, does kind of counter-argue my point of it being too overpowered, because I'm struggling to get to the end of it because I get to the end and then die. But I never really see myself using the other weapons. I use explosive every now and again. Like if I can find the freeze grenade launcher, I will use that. But for precision weapons, I have genuinely not found a benefit to using them. Now it won't be due to my playstyle because I like to run in guns blazing, but the only time I've ever really found myself wanting to use it is when you go to a certain door and there's like an endless wave for a short period of time where you have to kill so many to progress. Besides that, I wouldn't really touch them. I think, again, I have to keep saying this, it is early access. I genuinely think it's purely because they're trying to focus on the core mechanics at the moment, which work, but the balancing is a bit off. The other things that are really worth pointing out in this game would probably be the bosses, because you've kind of got 2, because the game isn't fully finished, you can't fully beat the game yet, you can only get to the second boss and then that's it, you go back to the start and you can choose to upgrade your camp or go through again. The bosses themselves are pretty fun, but my concern is that the first boss, for example, the drill, is a bit too easy and the attack pattern is very, I want to say generic. It digs under the floor, it will jump up, shoot you a couple of times, dig under the floor, come up, do like a radial attack, go under the floor and repeat the cycle. Now I think if I can give a bit of feedback with this, I don't mind the bosses themselves, but I think they should take a note from Hades, for example, where you can go to the same boss area, but the boss will be different each time, so there's a bit of variety. So I think it's the first boss in Hades where there's 3 different versions of that boss, because there's 3 sisters. You could easily make different versions of these droids, or you could have different droids completely appear in there. I think because they've gone with the story of civilization fell to robots, there is a lot of opportunities to have other things appear, and I think what they're going with at the moment, especially with the first area, it feels more like construction drones, which going from the landscape you go through could make sense, so other construction bots would be interesting to see, but it really depends how the early access goes. There is also co-op in this, which is surprising. It's not often you see a roguelike have a co-op function. I haven't really tried it myself, but I know a couple of my friends are interested in getting it, but they don't really like early access. I will probably come back to review this someday. I'm probably still going to be playing it because it is really fun, but I hope they don't mess it up and don't just give up with the project, because RoboQuest is a really, really fun game. I've streamed it and I'm planning to stream it again at some point, but it is just an addictive game. There's not a lot to offer at the moment, but I can't stop myself from coming back to it and going, oh, one more game. I would say at least wishlist this game. Keep an eye on this game. If you like roguelikes, if you like first person shooters, if you like Borderlands, for example, there's a lot in this game which can be appreciated, and I genuinely think this is going to be a good one. I really hope they don't mess it up at all, because I would like to see this game have a long life. I would love to see how they branch out with weapons. I would love to see some new classes be introduced. Basically, I'm hooked on the game. I just want to see what they've got to offer. Future Ben here. I just realised as well while going back through this audio, and also looking at my notes, that I didn't even mention technology weapons were a thing in this game. And being that I forgot all about it, probably means they're incredibly useless. Oh yes, I can talk about this now. So, obviously I've been going back and forth with it, and we found out what the problem was. It's an electrical fault, basically meaning, due to how the route is designed, electrical interference can happen, which will just knock it offline. But it's really hard to figure out what causes it, because it could be anything. It could be a kettle, it could be something down the street. We have no idea. But BT is not trained OpenReach staff to find the issue. So we've had about 6 engineers come out to replace stuff like the master socket, cabling and whatnot, and even check the ports, and then they keep saying it needs a rain check, which is like random electrical interference. And I kept saying this on the phone, and then the last guy I spoke to, because they were like at the bottom of the barrel thinking of ideas, and he went, "Oh, could it be your TV?" And we said no, because the TV is like close to the router like it was the old house, and it was never a problem. And then said, "Yeah, but could you just try like move it like away from the router?" And I said to him, "Look, the router is behind the TV, so you're telling me to basically move my restructure my living room and move it about to just check if that could fix the problem." And they were adamant that that would fix it. But I've had this issue since May, since when we moved in, like end of April, start of May. And I said, look, if you'd asked me at the start, when we still had stuff in boxes, sure, we'd have a look. But now, I'm just not doing it. And then they said, oh, well, what if you turn the TV off? But it happens during the night when no one's using it, so it's turned off already. And then he said the worst thing I think I've ever heard someone in technical support suggest, which was, have you tried turning everything on in the house? Like, turn on all the plugs, so basically just have it so my electricity bill just shoots through the roof. Yeah, they're not going to reimburse that. Just try it, you know, restore your electricity. You don't want to pay an as-you-go meter or anything. Just let it dry out. But he sounded so confident, and when he said it, so stupid. But yeah, after that, they just went, yeah, we don't know what to do. Give us till Monday, and then we'll see if we can get you cancelled. And then asked if I was sure if I wanted to get it cancelled, which I'm pretty sure I was sure. And then, yeah, not yesterday, the day before, so on Monday, got that cancelled. Broadband's up till September. And took a deal up with Virgin, that's turning up tomorrow. Oh, the best one as well, one of the engineers we had turned up, and I heard him turn up, I looked outside to see if he was there. And then the fucking engineer just went off. He just was like, no, I don't want to go in. I'm just going to say he wasn't in. So I immediately rang them, and they rang OpenReach, like, why did you walk off? And he went, oh, well, he wasn't in. And it just, that was another thing that went back and forth. I think I had like 5 complaints open with them over the entire issue, which they kept closing because it sounded too similar to the last one. I don't think it was... I don't know if it would be laserdrawing competition. It was stupid, I can tell you that much.